All right. Hi, I'm back. I've got my overhead cam now. You can see me draw. We're going to review some other things that we did in class last week. Remember, we did points. We started trying to align points in parallel rows that were about the same distance apart. Then we went and we started trying to make, longer lines. Remember, each line is its own thought. We're trying to teach our brain. Remember, our looking is learning. We're doing things with our hands. We're watching ourselves do it with our hands. We're stepping back and looking at it and analyzing it, observing it, and then we're trying to do it again and do it better. And we're building on this collection of memories. Part of it is muscle memory, part of it is brain memory. Well, notice my touch is not real heavy. I don't want so much of a circle and then that. I'd much rather see something where you start to work at the line from both ends. You'll notice my arm staying free and off the table. It's moving. It may be dragging on the table, but it's not glued to the table. So we did those things. You can then start to organize those pages into things like rows of lines. You can start to make squares. Make your best estimate of a square. And then we're going to try to repeat it. We're going to maybe make a little break there. And now underneath it, we're going to try to, can we do something the same size? And teach our body and our brains, our arms. Teach our bodies, brains, and our arms, which I guess are all the same thing, how to do these. And if I do something like extend that line out, right? And extend that line out. Playing games like how many more squares, if I'm trying to measure and make things the same size, you'll see me do this movement a lot where I go to both ends and then I try to go past it. I'd rather have you go past a line and then maybe come back in with an eraser and clean things up than be heavy-handed like this or fall short, not make it there. Really want to see you, pick a spot and shoot through it. Now, that's kind of what we did last week. I want to introduce a few new things. One, you could go ahead and I've got these squares I showed you in the introduction. There's the 3-inch square cut out of cardboard. You could use, if you have, an old shoe box, cereal box, anything like that. It doesn't really matter what you make it out of, but the idea is you kind of teach yourself 3 inches is a really good size. Why 3 inches? Because a couple of reasons. When you divide it into half, you get things that are 1.5 inches long. When you divide it into quarters, I mean, when you divide it into thirds, you get each section is an inch long. So inadvertently, it's kind of like teaching yourself a basic unit of measure, right? If you can control a line 3 inches long and keep it pretty straight, then you can start grouping those together. If you choose to play with something like this, where you're setting them out, try to create the same visual pattern. You're teaching your brain how to recognize what straight is, what parallel is, what the same distance is. And you're measuring it not with a ruler, but with your eyes. Then you can practice finding half. What looks like half? There to there is equal to about there to there. There, there, to there, right? There, there, there. Don't worry if you don't get it exact. And do it vertically. Well, that's not perfect, but you very clearly get the idea that there are 4 separate equal parts, right? Those kind of things can be important. Now, we can also start working with some of the other geometry of the square. And start finding half, and finding our diagonals. And it's good test. If you want, you can turn your paper. I'm not against that. Overall, doing whatever you need to do to make your straightest line will help you help you learn, help teach your brain what that is. Now, the next place we can go with this is start working on these. All right? Remember, I started talking about the circle. So we know that inside of a square, a circle's going to hit here, there, there, and there. It's going to touch the center of each wall of the square. And on the diagonal, here's where half and all this brain measurement comes in again. If we know that if we say that that's half, right? Then half of a half is a quarter, which gets us so approximately a little bit more than 3/4 of the way on each diagonal is where the circle will intersect the diagonal. So if you can divide this, if you can just divide this portion of it into half and then into quarters, you know pretty much right where that line's going to fall. And you don't have to do the whole thing at once. And you can turn your paper, but try to look for, just the same way we went this, right? Dot, 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 across. I'm going to go here. Learn that same, teach your arm, how that feels like, right? That's what you're teaching. You're teaching yourself. The whole idea behind this is not just to teach straight line, but to teach what straight line feels like so that we know better what circle feels like. It's kind of like, how do we know what something sweet is? Well, you kind of find out over time, because you find out that the opposite of sweet is sour. So kind of think of those kind of things about how you experience life, right? Here we're learning about what straight feels like, what horizontal feels like, what vertical feels like, what a diagonal feels like. This is all about looking, learning, and teaching our body to feel and know these things in a different way.